Hi everyone, and welcome back. I hope you're very much enjoying Immersion Plus, where from an NEC perspective, we try to bring humanity and technology together to orchestrate a brighter world for all. And right now, I think during such difficult times, not just here, but around the world, our hope is that we can all work together to achieve a more brighter, more robust, more resilient, and more sustainable world. And as a society, that we can overcome these challenges, particularly the challenges that COVID has thrown, and reshape our own future. It's a real great pleasure now to introduce one of our platinum partners, Mr. Paul Jarman, who's the CEO from inContact. NEC is delighted to partner with inContact. They are specialists in cloud contact center solutions, and we welcome Paul's address today on particularly on how governments and organisations across the globe are successfully moving contact centres to a work-from-home environment during particularly what's been an unprecedented outbreak, the COVID period, maintaining critical service and continuity and still delivering outstanding customer experiences, particularly with this soaring of interactions, all while keeping employees, data and the health of organisations alive and productive. Paul, it's a real pleasure to have you today joining us at Immersion Plus, all the way from Salt Lake City, and we really look forward to your presentation, which is titled Adapting to the New Normal.
Governor put a stay-at-home order in place on a Thursday night and said by Saturday, all businesses had to have their employees working from home.
When COVID started, we kind of knew we'd have to ramp up, we'd have to answer questions and answer calls.
We needed our staff to be home and settled and have all that technology worked out.
My daughter overcame cancer just a few months ago. I was afraid that if I have to go to work, I might get infected and jeopardize her. On the other hand, I couldn't risk losing my job.
And literally within minutes, we had several options on the table. And the icing on the cake was inContact was not going to charge us for this.
Really, that next day, all of those first initial associates were working from home.
inContact is our number one piece of the foundation to make sure that our employees feel safe, that they know that we're here as a company.
Every single person is at home, so we're totally virtual, which, I mean, if you would have told me that a year ago, I would have said you're crazy.
Within minutes, I was able to log into my Max agent and start taking calls on my mobile.
Didn't have to make any fundamental changes to the platform, and we were able only to focus on what really mattered, which was enabling the people.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here with you, and we appreciate the opportunity to be here with NEC and the great partnership we have with them. I am talking to you today from Salt Lake City, Utah, and I've had a lot of opportunities to be in different parts across Australia, and it's great to share some time with you today. And I've been in the industry for about 30 years. I began years ago as an actual contact center agent, and over about 20 years of working with solutions and software and how to help contact centers be more successful. And really, when you look at what's happening out in the world today, wow, we've had a very different last 4 months in the world, and we've had a very different last 4 months as contact centers across the world. And as you look at the contact center today, what you see in this picture is what it is. It's all of us working the best we can from homes and small offices and locations really all over the world. And I want to take a little bit of time today and talk a little bit about the trends that we're seeing, how those trends have been affected by COVID, what it takes, and how do you run a great contact center even when you do it from home, and how we've helped contact centers all over the world to really create a better environment for their employees and also be more successful with their business goals in the contact center. So let's jump right in. I want to start by, first of all, showing a little bit of what we're seeing in the trends or transformations. And, you know, what was already happening in January, February of this year was these are the 5 trends that were happening going into COVID. The first one is that consumers were expecting a lot more personalization. They wanted you to know them as a government, as a business. Secondly, we were seeing significant increase in digital. People wanted to be able to communicate via SMS and other forms of digital. And really, there's about 30 types of digital channels today that consumers can choose from. We're also seeing a lot of changes in the workforce. A lot of the issues and things that the contact center employee worked on were more technical, took more time, and also the employee was becoming more of a consumer. They really wanted a more catered or custom experience for them as well, not just for the customers they were serving. We were seeing a revolution in the cloud, and people were looking for faster innovation. They were looking for more agility, and they were looking for someone else to really take a lot of the day-to-day challenges away from the company so they could focus at what they were good at. And then the last thing is we were seeing a lot of innovation around artificial intelligence, and this might have been things like chatbots, conversational IVR, a lot of analytics, and different areas that were really shaping self-service and shaping how we really learned more about those that we served. And then come February, March, and really COVID came. And what we're finding is a couple of things as it relates to these trends. And let me just go through some of these in the next couple of slides. So the first thing that we saw was that we did a survey of about 800 contact centers, and about 300 of them were in Australia. And the first thing is that almost everybody saw increased volume related to COVID, 92%. We also saw an over a 62% jump in digital interactions. Basically, all volumes increased, and there was a lot of change where people were coming in with digital channels to get their questions answered and the issues that they had. The next thing we saw was about 70% of the people that we surveyed that said after COVID, we really want to keep more of our agents working from home. So we're seeing that these last 4 months have created a significant change in companies' attitudes around how to use at-home agents, how to manage at-home agents, and more companies are saying, I want a more flexible work environment for the workforce, and I'll let them work from home more when this is over than when I started. The other thing we saw was an acceleration of companies that wanted to get to the cloud for their customer experience tools and technologies. A greater, basically, increase that happened because they needed the flexibility, and many didn't have it when they were hit with COVID. The next area that we saw was that most companies, over 60%, weren't prepared to move their agents home when this happened. There were a lot of barriers. Many of the companies didn't have the infrastructure to support it. They didn't have the voice quality that they needed to get everybody at home. The agents themselves, issues with computers and help desk and other configurations and challenges related to their own working environments. And then lastly, there wasn't really the right tools and processes to manage at-home agents. And also there weren't really a lot of agents that had prior experience working from home. And so they couldn't tap their neighbor in the contact center and ask them questions. All of the support they were used to was all of a sudden gone. And so we saw a lot of companies really struggle right at first to figure out how to actually do this. Frankly, first, just to get them to be safe and at home. And then secondly, we've seen a lot of companies now really trying to figure out, how do I actually do this well? So really, when you think about it, making the work from home contact center work for your agents, your customers, and you is a key strategy now to the success of the government, of the enterprise, and really for the contact center. I'd like to now share just a few things that we've seen. We've now had the opportunity to move over 300,000 agents to home. And along that journey, we've seen a lot of different experiences and a lot of companies at a lot of different states. And I'd like to just go through some of the best practices that we've seen and some of the key areas to consider when you do this. Now, I'm assuming for a lot of those that have contact centers that are listening today, you might have already taken the first step, which was you got them home. And it might have been painful, it might have been easy, but a lot of people got there. So I'm going to start, first of all, with the foundation. And a lot of that is technology. It's first of all is, can your systems and processes and your ACD or your omni-channel systems, can they allow their agents to work from home? Do you have appropriately telephony? Do you have the voice quality you need? And really all of the equipment that the agent needs to have, which is also allowing you to be secure. A lot of people figured this part out, but barely. We ended up helping literally hundreds of companies those first couple of weeks change all of their technology so they could do this better. We were turning up companies and governments in 2 days and making sure they could get their agents home. And we did that because we had the benefit of our cloud tools that made, number one, much easier. But step one, which I think a lot of you might have done, was to really get the foundation there in place. The second thing is you really have to adapt now to a different environment for the agent. The agents often need shorter shifts. They need faster approvals. They need to move schedules. Also, what we found was a lot of agents that used to have, in-person meetings. It was hard to keep people connected and energized and interested in the collaboration and the process with the meetings. And we found that you needed to make them shorter, help them be more interesting, and also create areas and opportunities where people could socialize and really connect virtually. And so we found that managing the shifts and the schedules became really important to do that differently and better than many had done that in the past. The next thing we saw was people were really now struggling to manage agent performance. You used to be able to walk down the hall there between all the cubicles and see all the people and see them in the face and their moods and their attitudes. It was easy to monitor. It was, you pull them in a room for coaching. You were able to have a lot of feedback one-on-one with them in person. All of a sudden, all of that is gone. And so what we found is you really need to help in a positive way, make this transition. And what we found is that if you can share activity, goals, and metrics, and really have those in a way that the agents can see them on their own computers, see their teams, see their contact centers, see their personal targets, and they need more feedback virtually on how they're doing. They need more feedback virtually on how their personal communications with their customers or patrons are doing. And there's a lot more opportunity for coaching and feedback, and that needs to keep happening. It needs to stay personal. It needs to stay face-to-face over video. And so what we found is those that really continued to effectively manage agent performance and had the tools to do it have had better engagement and help with the agents. The next thing that we found is that you really have to over-communicate. We found that those that were communicating regularly, they were creating environments for feedback. They were asking their employees regularly how it was going, how it's doing. We saw in a lot of cases, there was a lot of fear and anticipation as to could it affect their jobs? what's going to happen with their employment, how are they going to continue to work from home, when would they go back, and really being open and transparent with those communications we found to be really important. We also found that you needed to create expectations for the workspace. What's the environment they would work in, and often sometimes they do the best they could because, you know, they weren't planning to work from home and all of a sudden it just had to happen. And the other thing that we found was you needed to make sure that you had clear productivity expectations, that they understood their targets, they could consistently see their measurements against them, and they could feel and see the one-on-ones, as I mentioned before, for the coaching and feedback in a video and personal way. We also found that as it relates to understanding your customers or your patrons, we found that using more surveys, using analytics to look at and run through all of your voice and digital communications to find issues, to find areas where customers weren't satisfied, also became a key part of really helping you to visualize what was happening with your customer base better, because that was harder insight to get consistently from your agents than when we found people did it within their buildings. So just going back for this checklist, I know it might sound pretty simple, but I've always found that doing the basics well is the first step. And doing these 4 things really well, we've seen make a big difference across the world in really helping companies be successful with their work at home initiatives. And if we have any time at the end, I'm happy to take any questions around this in addition to what I've put here. The other thing I just want to take a moment is to just let you know how we've experienced this across the world and what we've helped to do to really change this work from home environment in all the different parts across the world. So as you look at inContact, our purpose is really to transform every customer experience into something that's extraordinary and trustworthy. And this has been a great experience for us over the last 4 months to feel like we could really make a difference in helping employees be safe and helping organizations solve really tough problems. And we do this by creating a really complete platform, and that platform is to help really these companies and governments and others to transform their customer experiences. As you look at, you know, some of the things we saw across the world, first of all, we help about 300 global governments, and what we saw with COVID is that the actual interactions grew by 15 times, not 15%, but 15 times what it was pre-COVID. And we saw, for example, in the United Kingdom, where we support the UK Health Services. They've got about 2,100 agents. They had to double their agents over about a 3-week period while they had to take the rest of the agents to work from home. And they had to create the testing processes, all of the health and human services processes around COVID at the same time. So a lot of work really helping them meet this experience and doubling the people that they had and preparing them to do it all from home. We saw what happened in one of the largest states in the United States, actually New York State. They went from about 3,000 ports to over 36,000 ports over about 2.5 weeks. They surged, literally over 10 to 15 times what they would normally do. The reason that happened is both for all of the health and human services questions and also related to all of the unemployment. And they had to increase their agents 78% in 1 month. And with so many calls, they had to ask themselves, how do I actually use appropriate self-service to help answer some of the questions that we can't today? We saw in Australia, we saw a lot of different organizations immediately move to home, and we helped a lot of different government organizations across Australia move to at-home workers using our systems in literally days. And you see this quote here from the Australian Energy Company. So we have had a firsthand experience in seeing really thousands of companies and government organizations move to home, and many of them moved to home using our services and starting with our services, and literally within a week being up and running with everything that we can provide for them. What we found really at the end of the day was our job was to really help keep the employees safe. We also found that we needed to be scalable at the instant, so you could go up or down within moments, and also that you could have a lot more ability to quickly be agile and really handle changes that might happen with your IVR, with your scripts, with everything that might happen related to the contact center, and you needed agility. The next thing we found was a lot of people got home, but then immediately they didn't really have the tools in place to manage productivity and performance remotely. So from coaching to really quality monitoring and quality services and analytics and performance management, all those things they were now missing that they used to do more in person in the contact center. And lastly, we saw a lot of people that really looked at cutting costs with all of that increased volume as how to actually handle it with better self-service and digital options that allow them to be more productive. And when we do this, we really look at it in 4 different ways, and I would recommend that everybody here on the phone do the same. To really run a great customer experience or contact center, you have to combine a couple of different areas. First of all, you need to have the right customer analytics. Second of all, you really need to have the right omni-channel routing, and that's both for voice and for digital. The third thing we found is that you really need to have the right workforce optimization tools, from analytics to all of the scheduling, the performance management, recording, quality management, etc. And then we found a lot of people have been able to use AI and automation to really enhance their service models as far as self-service. And also all of that sits on a single platform, so it's all seamlessly working with each other, and it's all there on one platform, one suite of products, and that it can interconnect to the other systems from companies' PBXs to CRMs to ERPs, making it easy to work inside the bigger ecosystem. So the next thing that we've done to help all of these organizations across the world is we've built a worldwide network and a worldwide area and systems for hosting the software. We've done that for a couple of reasons. First of all is we did it so that it could work within your security and reliability requirements. We did it so that your voice quality could be MOS 3.9 or better, or basically very good. And we did it so you could have the appropriate uptime that you needed to be successful. So as you see here, we have facilities across Australia and the rest of the world. And we found that was important for companies to really have a worldwide presence and also being able to use the cloud at the same time. You know, lastly, and I guess this is a shameless plug in a way, is that, you know, we've been basically acknowledged as the worldwide leader for cloud contact centers, both by Gartner and by Forrester. And really that's come because of the really almost 20 years of work that we have done to help contact centers be successful in the last 15, to help it really be done through the cloud. And we found that these trends that I talked about earlier of cloud, analytics, self-service, and really AI are really moving. And I believe, as I've looked across this industry for a long time right now, is that the next 3 years, there will be more change in the contact center than the last 10 years combined. So we as contact center executives and executives of organizations, we're facing a new revolution in what's possible in the contact center. We're also facing a new revolution of what the customer or the patron expects. And for us to be able to deliver that with the right quality, the right experience, at the right cost, we're finding takes a whole new approach to the contact center, to our employees, and to the solutions that we use to deliver it. And all of this was frankly just jumped and changed with COVID. And frankly, it's accelerated the need for many of the things that people need to achieve. So as we look at what's happening in the market today, it's exciting to see what's possible. And I've had a great opportunity working with literally thousands of executives over the years, helping redo, reimagine, and successfully revolutionize customer experiences, patron experiences, to really help people have better experiences and be more successful. So I appreciate your time, and if there's any time left, happy to answer any questions.
Well, thanks very much for your presentation. It really was a fascinating insight and reflecting, I guess, so much of the impact that COVID's having on this changing workplace, and the role that, you know, the agents now working from home, and the need for thinking differently to solve problems that, as you said, pre-COVID may not have even been imagined. So employee safety, the agility that you spoke about, maintaining productivity, all critical themes that clearly came through your presentation. So thank you very much for that today. We do have one question. I'm just going to bring that question up now. The question is, and it may be something that you may or may not know, because you obviously are based in Salt Lake. Approximately how many organisations in Australia have migrated to the CX1 platform since COVID lockdowns began this year? Do you know that number at all, Paul?
I would guess that it's somewhere between 30 and 50 organizations that have moved over to the platform and a lot of that was driven because they couldn't get their employees or their people home. And in a lot of cases, we literally had to move them in a week or two and help them to do that. And that would be across both Australia and New Zealand.
Great. And just one other quick question is, how do you see automation, especially RPA, playing out?
You know, especially if you have systems where there's a lot of after-call work and it takes a lot of time for agents to work between the systems, we're seeing that RPA can be very helpful. We worked with a company that had, you know, for certain hard tasks, up to 18 minutes of work. And a good RPA system took that down to about 1.5 minutes. So also RPA can be very good at guiding the agent and assisting the agent and how they work with the systems and what they say to the consumer or the patron. So we found for the right place and the right applications, it can be very effective. And we do provide RPA as a product and are very familiar with what it can do for a contact center.
Fantastic. Paul, we, after each presentation, we're just taking a quick action poll. So it's going to appear on people's screen right now. And it's just 3 quick questions. And those questions are, did this presentation add value to you today? Ranked 0 to 5. I'm now more informed about the subject matter, again, ranked 0 to 5. And I'd like to know more about this subject. Just a quick yes, no. While I just summarise here, and we'll come back to those results in a moment, if you'd like to know more about inContact, Paul, obviously based in Salt Lake, is going to drop off the call, but as inContact are a partner of ours, a major sponsor of this event, you can meet their local team by visiting the exhibition hall. So it's just in the toolbar back in towards the main platform. And by clicking into the exhibition tool and just simply find the inContact stand, there are people there, our local guys who can support you and work with you. So let's have a look at that poll result now. If we flash the results back up on the screen. And look, overwhelmingly, I think, did the presentation add value? Well, you can see close to 100%, 95% of people are 4 or 5. So definitely, and certainly, in terms of the second question, I'm now more informed. You've clearly been able to impart quite a lot of knowledge and insight into how contact center solutions are helping people through this period. And there's quite a number of people, nearly 60%, that would like to know more, and I'm sure they're going to visit the live exhibition stand now. In a moment, at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we'll be actually back to present a presentation from NEC's non-executive chair, Mr. Mike Murdoch. So in order to get to that, you need to just click into the auditorium and just simply join the presentation at 1 o'clock. Paul, thanks again for joining us today. It's been a real delight having you.
Yes, thank you. And everybody have a great day. It's good to talk to everybody.
Thanks so much. Cheers. Bye-bye.